My name's Steven. I struggle with ADHD. It's something that is pretty common in the world, like most people know about it, but it's generally characterized more towards children with like hyperactivity and distractions and whatnot, and as everything that goes on with that. But not many people know that in adulthood it manifests a little bit differently, which it manifests the same way for children as it does in adults, but whenever I did research on it, then I found out that the people doing the research, they never really focused on the emotional aspect of it, because it's not exactly something that's easy to like pin down for every single person and like quantify, I guess you could say. So one of the things that goes along with ADHD is emotional dysphoria, I guess you could say, but which is pretty much just a difficulty with regulating emotions. And for a lot of people who have ADHD, they'll pretty much tell you that themselves, especially with little children. Like any emotion that they feel extremely, like it's through the roof. So that was something that I've always dealt with, and I never really thought much of. I just thought I was just, you know, a boisterous, strong-willed kind of person, which I am strong-willed, but that's not related to ADHD. So as I got older, closer, like middle school, high school age, then I started going through, obviously, like puberty, hormone changes, stuff like that. But I started realizing that emotionally I was like one way and the other, like one way or the other. There were only two spectrums of where I would go. It would either be like super happy, super sad, super angry, like, you know, just all extremes. So I didn't know it at the time, but it was because of ADHD. And one of the specific emotional dysregulations that go along with it is something called rejection sensitive dysphoria. And rejection sensitive dysphoria is pretty much like any perceived insult, criticism, or rejection. It causes the person to pretty much either lash out or react in an extreme way. And I didn't really know why that was happening as a kid. I just knew that I would hear something someone said to me, or pick up on something that someone would do or say, or how they would look. Anything like super small and tiny, I would like pick up on it, and then I would just have this immediate, like super strong reaction to it. And it threw a lot of people off guard. I mean, including myself, but it understandably threw a lot of people off guard, because whether or not they were joking or like playing around or something like that, then because of the perceived situation in my mind, it could be the polar opposite in reality. But because of the perceived situation in my mind, it would just cause me to like completely, you know, blow up almost emotionally. So that was something that I dealt with starting in middle school, like late middle school, early high school. And it eventually ended up leading into depression, because there's a lot of confusion surrounding it. I always, like, people would be like, oh my gosh, you're so bipolar, blah, blah, blah. And of course, during that age range, then there's all that, like, I'm getting to know myself, blah, blah, blah. So it was just like a very intense time emotionally and psychologically. So as I said, it ended up leading into depression, and then depression ended up leading into anorexia. So those are two things that I've dealt with in the past. And I wouldn't necessarily say that I've overcome depression per se, but it's sort of like a waning come and go type of thing. And it's also linked to the rejection sensitive dysphoria, because even with that, like, what sort of started me down the slope into depression was because of rejection sensitive dysphoria. It causes people to try to change themselves to like be liked by everyone, to not be rejected pretty much, keep people around, etc. So because of like me trying to change myself, and then sometimes it's still not being enough, because, you know, naturally it's not going to be enough if the other person doesn't, you know, all that. So because of that, then that's what led into that. And it was just sort of a spiral thing. But as I got older, then I guess coped by either Whenever I did perceive a situation, then I would either hold in my like responses and my feelings and everything, and either just like completely shut down and walk away, or I would like overcorrect, I guess you could say, and just try, like pretty much cut people off 100%. And it's still not exactly something that I've mastered because, well, I mean, I can't really say it because, but I just haven't. It's not exactly easy, but generally when things like that do happen, then I'll either try to ask people questions, like make sure that I'm understanding them correctly, so that way I know where they're coming from, as opposed to just like what's going on up here and responding to that immediately. Or I'll make a joke about it, or even if I do respond, like if it takes over and I respond anyway, then I'll try to like phrase my response in a kind of joking manner, I guess you could say, so that way it doesn't come off quite so bad. Because with the sensitivity to criticism, then like joking criticisms or even constructive criticisms just, you know, they cause that reaction. So instead of just lashing out like I used to, then I've learned to either just not say anything or alter how I would say it, you know, so that way it's not so volatile, I guess you could say. So it's had a bit of an issue, or impact I should say, on my interpersonal relationships, because there will be multiple times, like either romantic relationships or just friendships, where if I'm trying to get to know someone, then I'll pick up on a little something, and then all of a sudden it's just like, it's either all good or all bad, which is another, I guess it's a defense mechanism. Well, it is a defense mechanism. It's called splitting. And it's whenever, you know, you only see people in black or white, all good or all bad, like not really any gray. So it's like 1 minute everything's, you know, all good, like everything's going good, there's no problems, like this person can do no wrong. Then like at the slightest hint of either betrayal, rejection, like anything like that, then it's just like, oh my gosh, they're the worst person in the world, I can't stand them. Every negative thing that you could possibly think of that could technically objectively be there, but any negative thing that you can link to that person, you will, or I will. So that's been something that I've had to try to work on. And being an overthinker, which is just sort of naturally, I am an overthinker, but I like to say I'm an analytical thinker, because sometimes it can be a positive, sometimes it can be a negative. So I've learned to try to work around it as much as I can and regulate myself, so that way I'm not just, you know, blowing up at every single person at the slightest little thing, just because of how I perceive something. The only reason why I ever ended up going to someone was because I was trying to get medication for ADHD. Because like at this point, I just recently graduated college, so it was mainly to try to like help myself get through nursing school. But I waited too late, so like, you know, naturally, but I waited too late, and that was my main like goal for going to therapy. But then like once I started going, then I started like, you know, unpacking all the baggage and everything, and I was like, oh, well. And my therapist had told me about this website called Attitude, and it's specifically a website that talks about like ADHD and stuff like that, and everything related to it. And that's how I found out about the rejection sensitive dysphoria. I also, mainly because of how I was raised, like my dad's from Ghana, which is a country in Midwest Africa, and my mom's from like the way back hills of Kentucky, where everything is like super, I won't say outdated, but it's very behind, well, I won't say very, but significantly. So it's pretty behind the times. So like mental health wasn't really a thing in my household. So a lot of what I thought I was going through, I thought was, maybe not normal, but because I didn't think it was normal, because I didn't really have any insight into mental health, and I just thought I was like the weirdest person in the world. And then it's like about like mid to late high school, early college, then that's whenever a lot of people started talking about anxiety and stuff like that. So that sort of didn't help, because there's a lot of people who say that they have anxiety, and I mean everyone does have anxiety, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people just don't know how to cope with it well. So that didn't exactly help me with my view towards mental health, because you would have people like, oh my gosh, that's giving me anxiety, and it's like, it's literally just like a bump in the road, you know, calm down. So I never really took it that seriously. And then like now as I'm older, the more that I see like it could be a meme on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, but shared by a mental health professional, and it'll like give a list of the way people act or respond to things, and then it'll be like, the reason why is because these are like responses to anxiety, responses to trauma, and I'm just like, oh, well dang. Apparently I do have anxiety and apparently I do have traumas, because my therapist, she had asked me at some point, she was like, so is there any like trauma in your life? And I was like, I mean, no, because most people, whenever they think trauma, they think like death of a loved one, sexual assault, something like that. Trauma can be multiple different things. It could be your parent talking down to you all the time. It could be like mental abuse, stuff like that. So bringing awareness to mental health is like, I wouldn't say it's like one of the things that's at the forefront of my mind all the time, but it's definitely something that I do try to strive for, because becoming aware of a lot of my own struggles and issues has helped me, like, I guess you could say, pick up on things that other people are struggling with, and they will be in the same spot that I'm in, where it's like, it's just a normal everyday part of life. I'll just deal with it. There's nothing that I can really do. And I'm like, no, this is an actual issue. There's nothing wrong with you for having that issue, but it's not good to let it linger and just fester, because then you're just gonna be stuck in a rut and it's not gonna end well for you. So my why for why I choose physical fitness, and more specifically CrossFit, is because it helps me sort of take a step back from my thoughts and my emotions, and I guess you could say decompress, because scientifically speaking, physical exercise is a stress reducer, an anxiety reducer. Well, I won't say anxiety, but it's a stress reducer, because you get more blood flow to your brain and everything like that. But for me specifically, there will be multiple days where I will have an incidence where I experience a projection sensitive dysphoria issue, I guess you could say, and then it'll have me just in a mood the entire time, all up until I come to the gym. I'll come to the gym, talk to people. I could still be in my mood, but after I get done with my workout and I'm on my way home, then it's almost as if everything's flushed out, I guess you could say. It's almost like the negative toxins, you could say, are just flushed out of my brain. And with any other kind of working out that I've done, I've never been able to stick to it like traditional gyms where you just go and lift weights and run on the treadmill or something like that. I've never really been able to stick to those, whether it be in college or elsewhere. Even if I had a workout partner, I wasn't able to do it. But for specifically CrossFit, it's definitely helped me, I guess you could say, channel a lot of the energy and focus that I've put towards other things, like repression, dwelling on issues and stuff like that, which is also a side effect of RSD. It helps me push all of that aside and focus on a goal. And aside from my physical health, because I think whenever I started, I was around 250, 260. So I definitely did want to start taking my physical health seriously for that reason. Because I'm not getting any younger, so I gotta hop on it now before it's not necessarily too late, but before it becomes more difficult, I guess you could say. So I wanted to do it obviously for my physical health, but an unexpected side effect, I guess you could say, was the positive impact that it has had on my mental health as well. Because now whereas before I wouldn't say I wasn't really mentally, what's the word I'm looking for? I didn't persevere as hard as I would. So being here at CrossFit, specifically with CrossFit, because of how the workouts are made and how you have to do them, then it's definitely given me a way to strengthen my mental resolve. There we go. It's helped me strengthen my mental resolve with just anything in life. So it's if I'm having a tough day, then it's just be all right, Steven, chill. Yeah, this sucks right now, but you just gotta push through it. Do focus on something else, do something else, but you will be able to get through it. So just keep pushing. So that's been very helpful. And then a positive impact about FullTilt specifically is there was this one summer, I think maybe it was the summer of 2020 after we all came out of quarantine. We were doing a workout. It was brutal. All I know is that it included running and kettlebells. I don't remember exactly what the workout was, but I was dying. It was hot, it was hard, and I was still new, so I was like trying to challenge myself, and I had picked a heavier weight on the kettlebells than I usually did. So I chose the 53 pound as opposed to 35. So I started out pretty good, or maybe I chose the 45. Anyway, so I started out pretty good, and I was, after a while, I was just like, I don't think I can do this, because I was just like beating myself up. I was like, you need to like stop, you need to scale down a weight, blah, blah, blah. So I talked to one of the coaches, the coach that was coaching at the time. He's no longer here, but I was like, do you mind if I scale down to a 35 pound kettlebell? Because Crystal actually was working out in front of me, and she was done with hers. And I think I was one of the last people that was trying to finish up, so that was also like in my head at me. So I was like, can I scale down to to a lighter weight? And he was like, he just sort of paused for a second, and he was like, let me see you do, I think it was like 5 or 10 more reps with that weight. And I was like, okay. So I did those reps, the amount of reps that he asked me to do, and I like put my best into it. And then I'll never forget the response that he gave me, but because I expected, you know, it's like, yeah, you can, or like just do a few more reps and then you can scale down. But he said, he looked me dead in the eye, and he was like, all right, so I'm not trying to be the mean coach right now, but I'm not gonna let you scale down. And it's not because I'm wanting to be mean, but it's because I know that you can do it. And when I tell you, that hit me like a train. Not necessarily because I've never had anyone like believe in me or give me that kind of encouragement, but it was just with the rejection sensitive dysphoria, there's a lot of negative self-talk that goes into it. So whenever I had him tell me that, then it was just very meaningful to me, because I was like, someone actually cares, someone's like helping me out, they're seeing the worth that I have and that I can put into it. And it honestly almost, like, I started tearing up while I was finishing the workout, because I don't know, it just really impacted me very strongly. So that's one of the reasons why FullTilt specifically I like so much, because there is that community there. The coaches actually care. They're going to push you only to the point where they know that you can be pushed, you know, and not injure yourself and whatnot. But yeah, that would be my why.